What would I like for people to take away from this video who are watching it? I would like for you to know that war is not a good thing, and that we all come back and we want to be macho, John Wayne, superhero. That's a lot of bull. What happens is a lot of innocent people and people that are soldiers get screwed up really, really, really bad, and I'm not so sure most of the time it's worth it. When you've got guys in their 60s making decisions about sending guys in their teens and 20s off to get maimed and amputations and killed and so forth, I'm not so sure it's worth the real estate or whatever the purpose is. So, as an example, I was very much a hawk when I went over there. I was very, very pro-USA, go give my life for my country. When I came back, I decided I didn't want my son to go to war or something like this and lose his life over something as foolish as that was, because once you're dead, you're dead. But once the war's over, and then you become allies. I mean, look who our allies are today. Germany, Japan, I have shirts made in Vietnam. I mean, we're friends now. So, was it worth it to have given my life? I'm not so sure. As far as moments of terror, I'll never forget one day, again, when I was brand new in country, not very long having been there. We were going down a road, and all of a sudden one of my tanks hit a mine, and it was disabled. And my company commander, who was a real nice young man, came flying up there to direct traffic and get people to go around where the tank was disabled so we could continue our mission. Only the enemy had wisely planted a second mine, and when the tank hit the second mine, it killed him too. And this was on Earth Day, 1969. I'll never forget it, because a couple of weeks later, my family sent me the Daily Reveille, which is the newspaper from LSU. And on the front page of the Daily Reveille on Earth Day, 1969, were my fraternity brothers protesting against the war.
Wow.
And I had such emotions about that. On one hand, of course, I wish there wouldn't have been a war, but remember, I was a hawk. I was going over there to give my life for my country. I left on my wife's 21st birthday and told her I'd probably never see her again. What a horrible thing to do. That was a stupid decision on my part. But I was gung-ho. It probably was not wise. So the most terrifying day, I'm going to say, was that day. There was another day that was very terrifying, and that was we were sent out in the middle of nowhere in rice paddies because we had been told that there was an entire regiment of North Vietnamese regulars that were coming to invade our area. And we were set up and we dug foxholes in this very hard ground, like a wagon train. We had all our guns pointed outward in a big circle in the middle of this rice paddy. All of a sudden, we get orders that they need what's called a hard spot. And a hard spot was where we'd take one tank and 2 armored personnel carriers and would go out a good ways and set up in a little triangle with our rear ends to each other and stay there and reconnoiter and listen for the enemy to come and basically be bait so that when the enemy came through, they'd shoot at us and the rest of the people would know about it. So, it's getting to be dark. We shrink the size of the wagon train in the circle because 3 of us are now leaving. The guys are all mad because they've got to dig new foxholes in this hard ground with these little bitty shovels, and it was like, it's a waste of time. They didn't want to do it. And I tell my driver, a guy by the name of Morales, I say, okay, let's go. And he said, I'm not going. I said, what? 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 Start the tank and drive. He says, no, I'm not going. And I said, why not? He said, I'm so short, I'm going home in a couple of weeks. You guys who go out there in a hard spot with a couple of hundred NVA regular army coming up are going to be dead tomorrow morning. I'd rather go to jail and stay in jail for a couple of years and get out and be alive than to go out there tonight and be dead tomorrow morning. So there again, young lieutenant, what do you do? I say, okay, I'm going to make it official. I'm giving you a direct order. Start the tank and move out. And he refused. So I did everything I could to try and persuade him, and when I couldn't do that, I then got the company commander to come over, and he worked on it. So we both kept trying to talk to the guys saying, you know, you don't want to disobey a direct order. You do not want to go to jail for this. This would be dishonorable discharge. I mean, a lot of things would affect your life. He said, yeah, but I'll still be alive. Well, for some reason I'll never know, he thought about it for a little while and started the tank. And so we moved out, and it was dark by that time. Scary as can be. And we're going across this area that had what's called elephant grass. And elephant grass was this stuff that grew up about 11 feet tall. So me sitting on top of the tank could see over it, but I couldn't see the ground. And so if there was a bomb crater ahead of us in the dark, the size of a swimming pool, because a B-52 had been there, you know, we'd lose the tank down in the swimming pool, and it'd be embarrassing. So we're very carefully going out with the tank first, and then the 2 armored personnel carriers behind me. And the driver makes a quick turn and throws the track. And what that means is the track comes off the road wheels on the side of the tank, and it means that it takes about 4 guys a half an hour to take it apart, put it back together, and put it back on the tank so the tank can move again. Otherwise, you're a sitting duck. So we start doing all of that. I stay up on the 50 caliber because you got to stay on the 50 24/7. I'm monitoring the radio with the people I've got to talk to. All these guys jump off, including a guy that was on my tank that was a forward observer for the artillery. And his job was to call in artillery in case we needed it. And he wasn't part of my tank platoon. He was attached to my tank platoon. He was just riding on my tank. But he had done it many times, and so he got off and he started helping everybody with their mission to try and get the track put back together and put on the tank so we could get out so we wouldn't be killed just sitting there. So he did all that. Well, when it was almost finished, he climbed back on board the tank and turned on his radio and found out that earlier that day they had dropped things from airplanes that were about this long, that had a needle nose and then fletching at the end like an arrow. And it would come straight down and stick up in the ground, and in the middle was a seismometer, so that when people would be walking in the area, it could pick up on the vibrations and send that signal off somewhere. And then it would know where it was and then call artillery on it. What had happened was, when we were going through in our tanks made it sound like there's a couple of hundred men walking, and there were people in 3 different artillery batteries around us that were locked and loaded and ready to fire on what's called time on target. Time on target means the guy furthest away shoots first and the guy closest shoots second, so that when the rounds hit, they hit at the same time. And had it not been for Specialist Orth turning on his radio and finding out that they thought we were the enemy, would have all been wiped out by our own artillery. So that was pretty terrifying.
Pretty scary. Wow.